Hey friends, today's main lesson is going to be about multiplying with decimals. And this is a review. We've been doing this, we did this in 5th grade, but let's refresh our memory. It's been a while since we've been in school and done all these awesome things. So let's talk about multiplying with decimals and how we do this. Okay, if you recall, when we multiply with decimals, we literally just pretend that the decimal is not even there. We do not need to line up our decimals whatsoever. We just multiply the two factors, pretending that the decimal is not even there until the very, very end of the problem. In our final product, that's when we will include our decimal. Oh, I did not lock it. Okay, so you just multiply as usual, all right? And in our final product is when we will rediscover where to place our decimal. Okay, so what we're going to do is and I hope you're writing this down. I want you to write this down, please, please, and work this with me, all right? So we're going to multiply our first factor, all the digits, times just this 6. We're going to pretend like that 4 is just gone for right now, and we'll just multiply this. So 5 times 6. 30, you're right. I guarantee you got 30. Okay, so 6 times 6 is 36, plus this 3. That is a terrible looking 3. All right, I'm going to fix that because we do need to write very neatly in math. Okay, so there's your 3. So 6 times 6 is 36 plus 3. 36, 37, 38, 39. You can always count forward. We're going to write our 3 above the very next digit. Don't skip over any digits. If you're working with 5 times 6 and you need to regroup, that regrouped value goes right over the next column. Always maintain your place value, okay? So 0 times 6 is 0. Any number times 0 always equals 0. Plus 3 is 3. And then 7 times 6 is 42. So let's go ahead and write that in. All right, we did not have anywhere to regroup that 4, so we just write it on down. Okay, so if you recall, we're going to cross off our work or erase it. You could erase it with your pencil if you wanted to, make it less confusing. And then we're going to multiply this first factor times our 4. But what we need to do is make sure that we have a placeholder 0 down here. Very important. If you don't have that placeholder 0, then you'll get a wrong answer. Your place value and your final answer will be all off. Okay, so 5 times 4. Now we're going to start back at the right and multiply times this digit. 5 times 4 is 20. 6 times 4 is 24 plus 2 is 26. Remember, we're carrying it over that very next value. 0 times 4 is 0, plus 2 is 2. And then 7 times 4 is 28. Okay, so now we have, these are called partial products. This is part of our product. This value is part of our product. We have to add those together. So 0 plus 0 is 0. Remember, your place value has to, see how my numbers are all lined up. That is so important. What you can do, boys and girls, is you can, on your notebook paper, you can turn your notebook paper or your composition book sideways so that now your lines are going up and down, and that'll help you maintain your place value. So you can do that. You're welcome to do that. That helps a lot of kids keep their place value. Okay, 9 plus 0 is 9. There's another 9. 2 plus 2 is 4. 8 plus 4 is 12. And then there's your 3. Okay, now this is an awfully large number. If we kept that by itself without placing a decimal, that would be 324,990. Well, let's think about whether or not that sounds reasonable. Okay, let's look at our original numbers. Okay, now if we think of just our whole numbers, remember last year we learned all about reasonableness and estimation. If we round these numbers to the nearest whole, which is to our ones place, this would actually round to 71, And this value would round to 5. So if we wanted to make sure that our number, our final product makes sense, let's multiply this estimated value. So 1 times 5 is 5, and 7 times 5 is 35. That's only 355. If we left this like that, is that even close? No, this is only a hundreds whole number, and this goes into the 100,000s without that decimal. So we need to really be careful when we place our decimals, okay? So please pay close attention to where you put those decimals. Okay, so here's how we do this. Here's your reminder. When you have a decimal in your factor, you look at those decimals and say, okay, how many place values are there total after both factors combined? So we have 1, 2, 3 decimal place values. So we have to have 1, we start from the back, 2, 3 decimal place values, 1, 2, 3, and that's where our final decimal will be. So let's think about our estimation that we made. We said, okay, if we rounded both these whole numbers to the nearest, or both these numbers to the nearest whole, and we multiplied them to get kind of a ballpark idea of where this number should be, it'd be 355, right? Well, since we counted all of our place values after the decimals and we went back 1, 2, 3 places, just like we said, there are 3 decimal numbers, our actual value would be 324 and then some extra, right? These are pretty close. So 324 and 99 hundredths, we can call it that because we can take that off, is awfully close to 355. So we are in the ballpark. That is fantastic. I hope that refreshed a little memory to you. All right, so let's go ahead and go on to the next one. Pause the video, write this down very neatly, and let's walk through this together. Okay, so it looks like these decimals are lined up, but that's not what we have to do with multiplying decimals. It's just coincidental that both of these numbers happen to go in the tenths place. So they do look like they're lined up, but it's not purposeful that they're lined up, okay? Remember, we're just going to multiply as usual, forgetting that these decimals even exist for right now, and then we'll place that decimal at the end, okay? So let's multiply 629 times 4. Okay, so 9 times 4. Remember your nines trick. So if you don't know 9 times 4, you can always hold up your hands. And I know this is backwards, but you can go 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 3 on this side, 6 on this side, so it's 36, okay? So if you remember that, that's fantastic. So 36. Okay, 2 times 4 is 8, 9, 10, 11. And we'll carry that over. So 6 times 4 is 24, plus 1 is 25. Okay, so we're finished with that part. We can erase our work. Okay, here I'll change the color. Okay, so now we're going to be multiplying by the 6. So we need to change this and make sure we have our placeholder 0. If you don't have that placeholder 0, then your answer is going to be off big time. Okay, you have to maintain your place value and hold that spot. Okay, so now it's 9 times 6. Again, you can use your nines trick. You can say, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 5 in the tens place, 4 in the ones place. It is 54. So 4 goes down, 5 comes up. Now 2 times 6 is 12, plus 5 is 17, and 6 times 6 is 36, plus 1 is 37. Okay. These are our partial products. This is a product of this times 4, and this is a product of 629 times 6. Okay, so let's add them together. That's a 5. 7 plus 5 is 12. 7, and here's 3. 7 and 3 is a group of 10. And there's 4. Okay, now can we leave this alone? No. If you answered no, you are absolutely right. We have to start looking at where to place our final decimal. And again, you look at your factors and say, okay, Here is a decimal number. We have 1 decimal place value here. We have 1 decimal place value in this factor. So there are 2 total. So we have to go back 1, 2 places to place our decimal. Now, what can we do to double check and make sure that our answer makes sense? What we can do is estimate. So again, just like we did over here, we can say, okay, 62 and 9/10 is almost 63. That's correct. 6 and 4/10. Well, 4 would make it round down. It's closer to just 6. So let's multiply. We have 3 times 6 is 18. That's 36, 37. Now, even if we rounded this up and we said, okay, 63 times 7, look at this. Okay, 3 times 7 is 21, 42, 43, 44. So our real answer would be somewhere between 378 and 441. And look, this does actually fall right in between those 2 estimates. 402 and 5600ths is between these 2 values. So we are correct. Our answer is reasonable. I mean, you might have made an error or 2 possibly in your addition or in your multiplication just by a digit or 2, but your answer would be reasonable. All right, let's go ahead and do this last problem for practice. And feel free to look through that flip book that I provided in the assignment. There's another help video in that multiplication part of that flip book. There are notes you can take and everything. So hopefully you'll use those notes. And even in the notes, it says you do not line up your decimals. Again, this is just coincidental that both of these factors go into the 10ths place. So be careful, you're not bringing down your decimal like you do with addition and subtraction. You have to place it properly based on how many total decimal place values there are in your factors combined. Okay, so let's go ahead and work this. If you want to work it on your own and then check it to make sure you're on the right track, please pause the video, multiply it out, and then come back and check. Okay, so here's 8 times 2, which is 16. Okay, 0 times 2 is 0 plus 1 is 1. 7 times 2 is 14. We didn't have a place to carry that over, so we just wrote that down. So I'm going to change color. And now we are going to be multiplying times our 7. So we have to mark our 0 and put that placeholder there, right? Okay, so 8 times 7 is 56. 0 times 7 is 0, plus 5 is 5. And then 7 times 7 is 49. Okay, again, these are partial products. We have to add them together to get a final product. So 6 plus 0 is 6. There is a 7. That is 9. There's a group of 10 and 5. Now, can we leave that alone? Or do we need to find a place for our decimal? If you said we need to find our place for our decimal, you are absolutely right. I hope that you counted how many decimal place values there are. Now, if you lined these up and said, oh, it's just like addition and subtraction, your decimal would go here. But let's see if that makes sense with an estimate. Again, if we estimate our answer, we're going to find something that's reasonable. If we round it to the nearest whole number, this would round to 71, and this would just round to 7. Based on those tens values, this would go up, and this would stay at 7. Okay, let's see what this would be reasonably. 1 times 7 is 7, and 7 times 7 is 49. That's only 497. Now, if we brought down our decimal like we might think that we do, like in addition and subtraction, look at what our whole number would be. It'd be 5,097. Is that anywhere close to 497? No, it's not. That's why we need to really be careful and count how many decimal values there are. So this is wrong. You have to be very careful. If your decimal is in the wrong place, it changes the whole value of your answer and of any number. So we have to count. So we have 1, 2 places. We have to go back 1, 2 places. Now let's look at our answer. This would be 509 and 76 hundredths. 509, the whole number, is really close to 497. So that helps you figure out whether you've placed your decimal in the correct position when you're multiplying. Okay? I want to do a couple more problems that do not include, not those. Let me clear my screen for just a second, and when I clear my screen, I want you to write these down, okay? Okay, we just have a whiteboard here. Okay, so in the previous problems, we had both numbers were decimal numbers, and both factors don't have to be decimals. Let's say we had 562 and 400ths times 21. Now 21 is a whole number, isn't it? We could have rewritten this as a decimal number, but we don't have to do that. It's just 21. So if you're thinking about lining things up, that's not what we do. We don't need to line up our decimals. We literally just pretend that the decimal does not exist. So let's practice this. We have 4. We're only focused on this 1 right now. Okay. Go ahead and work this if you want to. Pause the video and come back and check. What I really want you to make sure you do is check that final decimal. Okay, so 4 times 1 is 4. 0 times 1, 0. 2 times 1 is 2. 6 times 1 is 6. You'll notice all these digits are exactly the same because we're multiplying times 1. You just literally have to rewrite that value right down here. Okay, so now we are going to mark our 0 and hold that spot. You have to hold that spot there. So 2 times 4 is 8. 0 times 2 is 0. 2 times 2 is 4. 6 times 2 is 12. You'll notice I'm keeping my place value. I'm lining everything up very neatly. And again, you can turn your notebook paper or your composition book sideways and you can make these lanes, okay? And that will help you keep everything in proper place value and lined up really neatly. And then 5 times 2 is 10, plus 1 is what? 11. Okay, so now we're going to add these partial products. 4, there's 8, 2, 10, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, and 1. Now that is a huge number. Okay, so we cannot leave it alone because we multiplied a decimal value. So this factor has 2 decimal place values. Does this factor have any decimal place values? No, so we do not need to count any of these. It's not just 1, 2, 3, 4. No, we do not have a decimal place value here. No decimal values whatsoever. So we just count. We find the decimals in both factors combined and we count those places. So 1, 2, and we go back 1, 2. So that's where your decimal would go. If you got that right, you are definitely on the right track. Okay, I think that's all we need to do today for review. I hope that you practice, look at your notes, and think carefully about it. Again, if you need help, I want you to email me and join in on your class period Zooms, okay? All right, see y'all later. Hope you're doing okay.